How's it going, college football fans? It is your boy, the Jared Sawyer, coming to you with another edition of Cows and Quacks, exclusively here on 12-ounce sports radio. Joined always is my ever more knowledgeable and always traveling co-host, Tim Alcorn. Tim, show some love.
Man, I appreciate everybody listening to us. And I just got it back from a quick trip out on the beach in Florida, and it's back in the Rocky Mountains. Enjoyed a good blowout win last week. By the way, we're on Spotify too, so everybody knows.
We are on Spotify. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, hello. How's it going? Let's talk about your Horns win. I did not get a chance to see the game myself. I saw the final score. I was not terribly surprised by it. It was Rice. We kind of figured that would be something. This, to me, was a very important game for Ohio State. Still stuck in Ohio State. Very important win for Texas to come out and beat the living crap out of somebody to get that momentum back, to get that feel back of, hey, we're on the right path, we're doing the right things. How do you feel about the win? I mean,
first off, college football is so fickle. It's like the first week for the first half, Rice is beating Arkansas. Arkansas blows us out the next week. Then we completely blow out Rice the next week. And so you never know. But it was a good, very good, solid win. Bijan was 13 carries, 127 yards. Casey was 15 out of 19 for 164 with 2 touchdowns and interception. He come in and things might have been different if he would have been starting the whole year, but they went with the young one, and he just wasn't quite ready for prime time yet. But it was Xavier Worthy, who is our star receiver, had 7 catches for 88 yards. Rice was held to 272 total yards. So it was just a good win. Got a good game coming up this week against Texas Tech. So we'll get tested this week. So
definitely.
I couldn't see, it wasn't on TV where I could watch it. The Oregon game. Oregon struggled and then blew them out. What exactly happened?
It's a good question on what exactly happened. I love Mario Cristobal. I'm a Cristobal stan, as the kids would say these days. And I have nothing but 100% belief that he will win a national championship at Oregon. He's made the right hires. He has brought in the right players. He is doing all the right things. But something happens with this Oregon team personality-wise that I've noticed. And when you're playing a lesser opponent, they tend to kind of sleepwalk a little bit. They don't usually lose those games, but they tend to sleepwalk a little bit. And I don't know if it's just the coaches not being as prepared. I want to think that probably is the case, because college kids are college kids, right? But the guys that are getting paid the big bucks to get prepared for these games, I mean, they came out absolutely hair on fire and moved around and beat down Ohio State on their home field. So Oregon has the ability and talent really to play with anybody when they want to. And the thing about it is, when it comes to situations where you trigger a certain personality type and you make it personal, they kick the shit out of you. And Michael Jordan's a great example of that. Kobe Bryant is a great example of that. There are certain, athletes and coaches that are naturally going to put extremely high expectations on themselves and deliver on those because they challenge themselves on a weekly basis. But if you go out and make it personal like Stony Brook did, you just unleashed hell on yourself. And so Oregon struggled a little bit to get in a rhythm in the first half. All the credit in the world to Stony Brook. I mean, they came in hair on fire, ready to play in Autzen Stadium, some no-name FCS team from Long Island, and they're nothing. Really nothing. It's a glorified junior college.
I text you something when it was 17-7 that it was just a hangover, man.
And that could be a lot of the case. But they were playing chippy. They were playing a little dirty. And there was a point where, Ty Thompson threw a touchdown pass. I forget exactly to who. But Troy Flinken, one of our receivers, got stood up, held, and then double shot. So one to the legs, one to the top, and he's okay. But while he's on the field, Stony Brook's head coach has the nerve to talk trash to the kid that's sitting there hurt on the field after we just scored a touchdown. And Mario comes over, and Mario, first of all, the guy is trained in multiple martial arts. He's used to fight MMA, was recruited by the CIA and the Secret Service at one point, as well as also playing 2 national championship teams at Miami on offensive line. It's not a guy you necessarily want in your face, right? And he's super intense. Right? He's definitely intense. So you start talking trash to that guy, and I sent you the video of it. His response was, "Let's go meet in the parking lot after the game." Totally, not even "Hey, we're gonna continue to kick your ass here, but I want a piece of you." And Stony Brook's coach wouldn't even come up and shake hands after the game. They're a classless piece of shit. So here's what I'm going to say about this, and I'll conclude and we'll move on. They made it personal, and then Oregon absolutely buried them. And so what that tells me about Mario in particular is he needs to find a way to make the lesser opponents feel like a personal attack on him and his coaching ability. Because if he does that and finds a way to trigger himself into the zone on a week-by-week basis, this is a very scary team.
We have me and you, our teams in the past have mirrored each other. We have tended to play down to our competition. And, it has to be coaching, because I'll tell you why. Because most of these kids that are recruited, they played on dynamite high school teams, and they have no problem beating their other team 90-0. So I have no reason to believe that it's the players that are having a problem stepping on other teams' throats that are lesser than them, because they're used to doing it their whole life. They've did it in every phase of football. Most of these kids have been the best player on their team and have just destroyed the other teams. Yeah. So it has to be coaching that has to coach them up to get them ready to blow out teams they should blow out.
Yeah, I agree completely. And that's just the thing, for Oregon and for Texas, I mean, the 1-0 mentality, it sounds really good, but it has to really be something you believe in. Because there are, now Oregon's in a spot I don't think they've been under Mario before, which is no longer in any more of your games until you get maybe to the playoffs, depending on if they make it and who they match up with. Are you going to be considered an underdog? 2018 Mario was doubted in most of the games. 2019, same thing. And 2020 is kind of this weird, mushy kind of year. But you look at a full season like what we're dealing with right now in 2021, and he's no longer doubted. They doubted him against Ohio State, rightfully so, but proved him wrong. And now they're in a position where they are the favors the whole rest of the way. And I think the only competition that people are really looking at is, possibly Stanford, obviously UCLA, and Washington. And so you look at that, and those are all winnable games for Oregon. And this is new territory. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Mario handles this, where he's not just, hey, I hope Oregon's good enough to beat it, but now they're expected to win these games, and that's a different shift.
Now y'all are, when do you play UCLA?
We play UCLA, I want to say in late October. Let me go look at our schedule while we're looking at that.
circle that game. That game scares me a little bit.
That game
just because it's Chip Kelly. You know how that works.
Well, let's move into that. Jake Haener transferred from Washington to Fresno State, which made a lot of people's heads scratch, by the way, moving that transfer. Usually, if you're a D1 top, Power 5 QB, and he was a hell of a quarterback coming out of high school, you don't go from Power 5 team to a non-Power 5 team.
But there is something there, I'll say. Fresno State puts out pro quarterbacks.
They're dude. I look back at the Fresno State game, and we played a very vanilla version of our offense and defense. But Fresno State is for real. They went into UCLA. They beat them. I knew the game was going to be close. We both picked UCLA. It was the only game we missed last week, by the way.
Incredible game. What they scored with 3 seconds left, right?
So UCLA, for those of you that didn't stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, UCLA goes down the field. First of all, it was an incredible game. UCLA was down, I want to say 17 with 4 minutes left in the game. They go down, kick a field goal. They get a 3-and-out. They score a touchdown. They force a fumble. They score another touchdown. There's 57 seconds left. I'm sorry. They scored 3 touchdowns. They're up by 4. Sorry. Anyway, I'm just doing this from memory, folks. Forgive me. They got 57 seconds left on the clock. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this game and I'm like, there's way too much time for Haener. He is in the zone. He is playing at a level that is unconscious for him. Like he cannot make mistakes right now. And it was, you've seen those performances not just in college football but in the NFL and the NBA and baseball, and where players just slip into a zone and they are untouchable. He got rocked so freaking hard, Tim. It looked like he broke 3 ribs, and he was still in there making incredible throws and taking hits. Kid it reminded me very like Brett Favre looking, Baker Mayfield kind of player. And I couldn't help but root for him. I'm not a Fresno State fan at all. I mean, they nearly upset us at home. Like, I'm watching the game and I wanted UCLA to win because of the Pac-12 and keeping the ranking, and I like Chip Kelly, and there's a lot of reasons there. And I'm watching this kid, and damn it, I just want him to come down and win the freaking game. And
well, you kind of knew the zone he was in, he was going to win the game.
It was, yeah. As soon as I saw there's 57, I'm like they're going to win. I just know it. Boom, boom, boom. Came down the field, scored, I think, with like 8 seconds left or something like that. And I mean, single-handedly, between him and DTR, had an incredible game for UCLA. Like, an incredible game. The second half of that game was one of the single greatest quarterback duels I can ever remember in college football. And if Haener's not on the Heisman discussion, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're talking about in college football anymore. Because if you have a guy playing at that level, that's that special, that is exactly what a Heisman Trophy candidate should look like. Right then and there. I know there's some incredibly talented players on a lot better teams. But as far as a player that put themselves in a position to stand out, I don't know how you can't include him in the conversation. Yeah, it's just because he plays, in the Mountain West. I mean, Fresno State's now number 23 in the country. They're, what are they, 3-1? Their only losses to us, the number 4 team in the country, number 3 team in the country on the road by 7.
Yeah, he's got to win out to have a conversation, though. He's got to win out and be in the top 10. Let's switch gears a little bit, man. So Bama is rolling 21-0 first quarter against Florida. Florida said, "Hold my beer."
Hold my
One
beer.
hell of a game. One hell of a game. Florida comes storming back. The 2-point conversion, if the quarterback would have pulled it on the RPO and ran it himself, he goes in. It's a different ball game, but man, what a great ball game.
That was an absolute joy to watch. And the reason why I say joy to watch is it is incredible to watch how Nick Saban coaches when he's really pushed, and he got pushed really far. If he doesn't adjust things very meticulously in the last 3 minutes of that game, they lose. And because Florida was not afraid and not backing down. I have not seen a team come back on Alabama like that in a very long time. And I think that you'll agree with me on that. That was the most surprising. It wasn't surprising to me that it was competitive. I expected it to be competitive to a degree. But as soon as Alabama started rolling, we're like, yeah, all right, game over. But kudos to Florida for fighting, staying in there.
Florida outplayed them.
They really did in a lot of ways. But here's the scary thing about this, Tim, is Nick Saban loves this. This is exactly what he wants. He wants his team to come just far enough to losing that they could see what that drop looks like. And him being able to get in their heads and say, you guys need to frickin' listen to me. Because I feel like this season he's been very critical, and rightfully so. And, you were right. I was just putting blind faith in Alabama and looking at the results. They had to play very, very well. I think that game was won by Nick Saban, if we're being honest. That was just his experience and him knowing what to do in the right moments. Particularly on defense, to save his life.
I guarantee it's a tough week for the defensive players in practice right now. He was very disgusted with his defense, as he should be.
Look for Alabama to come out with their hair on fire. I would not want to play them this week. That would be...
I tell you what, I don't... Maybe Georgia, but I don't know if a team's going to come out of the SEC undefeated. I think they're going to beat up on each other.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the Georgia-South Carolina game, and Georgia looks really good, man. And they look different than the other Georgia teams in the past. Good. They look very complete, precise, disciplined, and just consistent. And you look at their division. I mean, they're really, unless they just have an absolute bonehead mistake of a game.
Florida's going to be a game. The cocktail party is going to be a game.
Right. That's really what that division comes down to. But if you look at the West in the SEC, holy crap! All right,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
So you have Alabama, Arkansas, Ole Miss, who to me is playing insanely good football.
Don't sleep on. I'm a Kiffin guy. Kiffin's got a team there.
And then you have A&M, Auburn, and then the bottom feeders of that division right now are. I mean, they're talking about are LSU and Mississippi State. So, the SEC West, especially this year, I wouldn't want to play in that division. That's insane. And so, but here's the thing. Alabama is going to have to overcome all of those teams to make it out of that alive. If they don't go the way I think they will with Nick Saban and doing that, they could walk out of there with 2 losses.
Yeah, if they come out that undefeated though, it's gonna be tough to beat them in the playoffs, man. If they've learned to win against those teams coming in the playoffs, it's gonna be a monster.
Well, and we have no reason to doubt that they will. I mean, you look at the trajectory and the consistency with Alabama. Everyone can be like, oh my gosh, Florida almost beat them. They come out and they just absolutely mutilate teams the rest of the way and win a national championship. Right? I mean, and that very easily could be what we're going to see. Oklahoma, to me, they're a top 10 team. I'll give them that because of their offense. But kudos to Frost and Nebraska for coming in with a game plan, identifying where their weaknesses were and exploiting those the entire game. I think they were favored by 3 touchdowns, and that game very easily could have been won by Nebraska. And I've been pretty critical of Frost because I am, but I gotta tell you that game surprised me a lot. But Oklahoma has, again, we talked about this preseason. If Oklahoma is ever going to win a playoff game, let's not even talk about what's going to happen in the SEC, but if they're ever going to win a playoff game, they have got to be more disciplined on defense. Like there's like when you get to that level, I don't care who you're lining up against, those teams have an entire season of game film watching your guys not making full tackles, not closing out on the edge, not having gap integrity, not looking at where their assignments are, and getting their asses handed to them by lesser opponents, like really lesser opponents. And to me, that's embarrassing. I mean, listen, Tulane, opening game, okay. But Nebraska, who is dramatically under-talented and undercoached, no excuses. And to me, I don't get why Oklahoma is in the top 5 other than the fact their name's Oklahoma. I don't see anything special about this team at all.
Well, first off, I text you during the game, and you agree with me. If Adrian Martinez would have gone to one of the big programs, he would be a serious star.
Oh yeah,
the kid plays so tough. I mean,
and
their offensive line sucks.
45 years old. He's 45 years old playing his 20th year in college.
If you put him in one of the big programs, he does game. But Oklahoma. I was thinking about this because we was talking about that during the week. This is what Oklahoma does. Oklahoma struggles, sometimes lose a game early, and then they roll. So if they do like they normally do, the Texas game will be real close one way or another. And then Oklahoma will roll the rest of the way. It's just what they do every year. And then they get blown out in the playoffs. But it's one of those things where if they start rolling and have 5 or 6 games that they do well, they're probably going to get in the playoffs. And, it's just one of those things. I mean, it just happens. It happens to Ohio State, too. Ohio State won the first championship, but after that, the same thing's been with them,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I just, again, Oklahoma could put up all the offense in the world, it seems like, although they did struggle against Nebraska. And so it's interesting to see what's going on there. It's also really interesting to see, I think we broke Ohio State because they barely could put away Tulsa. And Tulsa's not a very good team this year. That game was really confusing to me. It'll be interesting to see what happens now. We're starting conference play across the board with a lot of these teams.
Penn State's no joke in the Big Ten.
I'm so happy for them. I really am. I like a program that is finally getting back and really up to the level. I mean, I know they had one year they went to the Rose Bowl, but I mean, they're a real contender to not only win their division, which is stacked this year, very similar to the SEC West. Michigan State's number 20, Penn State number 6, Ohio State number 10, Michigan number 19. Rutgers looking fairly good so far, and then Indiana, who should have won the game against Cincinnati but blew it. So you have those teams, and then surprisingly, Maryland's undefeated. So, I mean, the Big Ten East is just as good as any other, division in college football. There's a lot of season, a lot of games to play through there, but dude, I don't think I was expecting that. I knew Penn State would be decent. I didn't think they would be really good. And I expected Ohio State to play better than they've played, but there's a lot of season left. And we're starting conference play, so now we're going to start separating teams and seeing, all right, who just looked really good to start and who's for real. And, I think that's a good segue here into our picks for this week.
Yeah, let's get into that. I'll bring the first one in. First one's a good game. Could be game of the week, but number 12 Notre Dame going into Whiskey, playing number 18 Wisconsin. How do you see it?
I'm going to do my best not to just rip on Notre Dame for 15 minutes. So, Notre Dame, I did watch their game. I watched their game Saturday because in my head I'm going, Purdue can win this game. Purdue can win this game. They barely eked out a win against Florida State. They barely eked out a win against Toledo. Okay, Purdue, Power 5 team, decent, mid-level team. They should put up a fight. And they did for the most part. There were some really good plays Notre Dame made with their quarterback and the receiver at very crucial points of the game that were a little bit of a gamble but paid off. That's how they put Purdue away. This game against Wisconsin, you're you're dealing with a significantly different situation in my mind. You're talking about a Wisconsin team that is bigger than you, more physical than you, will run the ball down your throat. None of the teams they've played so far are going to look the way Wisconsin looks. Okay, I'm going to take Wisconsin in this game. And the reason for it is exactly what I said. They are stronger and more physical on both sides of the ball. And it's going to ultimately come down, really, in my opinion, to Cohen. That's Notre Dame's quarterback. If he has time in the pocket to read the defense, he's going to pick Wisconsin apart. I just think Wisconsin's too disciplined. I like them. I think it's going to be a fairly competitive game. I'm going to go with this one, 24-17 Whiskey.
I got 27-24 Notre Dame. Notre Dame ekes out a close one as usual.
As usual. I tried to be subjective in this one. And again, I don't like Notre Dame, but they did close a game out last week, and I hadn't seen them do that yet.
Yeah, they look decent against Purdue.
They did.
They look like a good team.
They look better. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up this week against Wisconsin.
And we got to remember, this is a brand new quarterback, so it's taking him a few games under his belt. Huh?
Yeah. So fresh off the loss to Fresno State, there's no rest for the wicked. UCLA goes in, number 24 UCLA goes in to play Stanford. All right, so this game, the reason why I put this on the schedule is this is a crossroads game for both of these teams very early in the season. Stanford got shut out, they did score a touchdown against K-State. Against K-State to start the year. Then they throttled USC and sent Helton packing. They beat up Vandy, which they should have won that game anyway. So this is their first home game of the season. They started the K-State game in Arlington. They played at USC, at Vandy. This is their first home game. UCLA looked really good against Fresno State. I don't know if they could have played much better of a game. Tim, what do you feel like in this game, man? This is a hard game.
I don't know, because both of these teams have been up and down, and I really don't know. I want to pick UCLA, but I'm going to pick Stanford at home. I got them 35-31.
Listen. This is a coin flip for me. Stanford's they're similar to Oklahoma in the sense that they start slow and then they gain a lot of momentum throughout the year. I mean they play this week and then they play us next week. They play UCLA and then they play Oregon. They got both those games at home. I'm going to take UCLA in this game, and only for the fact that Stanford's main issue is going to be depth. Okay. K-State showed they had depth. They just tired them out. Vanderbilt and USC they're not in a position they can do that. But UCLA has depth. They have depth and they can run the ball. I'm going to take UCLA in this one. I'm going to take them by 7. I think this is going to be a very, very difficult game for both teams. I just think UCLA has shown their ability to play at a high level with good teams. Stanford hasn't yet. However, if Stanford does win this game, holy crap, dude. The game against Oregon is going to be a scary game. So
this is all California. Does all the players, while they're on the field, have to wear a face mask?
No.
So the quarterback don't have to wear his face mask and then pull it down to call the play? Correct. Put it back up?
Correct.
Huh, I figured Gavin Newsom had that going that way, but...
No, they don't. Bring us into your game, my friend.
It'll be a good one. As usual, it's always good. Texas Tech coming into Austin to play my Longhorns. I was encouraged last week. It was Rice, so I can't get, too overly excited. And I'm looking for Texas to control the game. I'm looking for them to lean on Bijan. Casey probably not opening up too much, but I look for Bijan and also Johnson to do good and run, and I think we'll get 6-7 yards of carry. I think Texas controls it. I think it's a close game, but I think Texas wins 34-24.
This game, as long back as I can remember, has always been a barn burner. It never fails. No matter who's playing for Texas Tech, who's playing for Texas, whether it's in Lubbock or Austin, it doesn't matter. This game has always been a very high-scoring, high-intensity kind of game. Texas Tech is gonna come in on fire. That's just their nature. Okay, our former quarterback from last year is the starting quarterback for Texas Tech, Tyler Shuck. So I have a personal interest in watching this game outside of what we do here on our show because I want to see how he plays. I want to see what he does. He threw for 400 yards last week against FIU. I mean, they're FIU. But, at the same time, he's playing great football early on. So I'm going to look for Texas Tech to push Texas pretty far here. The interesting thing is Sark can open up a playbook and just go at it. I think that this is going to be an extremely high-scoring game. I like Texas in the end because it is in Austin. I think the fans will get them through. But this is going to be, to me, it's going to come in the last three to 4 minutes of the game. And it could easily be who has the ball last, like it's been plenty of times in the past. I don't see any particular reason why not. Texas Tech does a great job recruiting offense. Their defense sucks. So I'm going to go high scoring on this one, Tim. You probably don't want to hear it, but, this is going to be, for us, it's mimosas and coffee watching this game at 9 a.m. I'm going high, all right? I'm saying this is going to be like a 67 to a 60 kind of game. Like this is going to be a very, very high-scoring game, but I like Texas. I think Texas is ready. I think they got the firepower, and I think ultimately in the end, they're going to win the game. Arizona, the Wildcats, coming into Autzen Stadium to play the number 3 Oregon Ducks. I don't know what to say about this game, Tim. Arizona is a team I personally hate more so than a lot of other teams. But they're embarrassing the hell out of our conference. They lost to BYU. They lost to San Diego State. And then last week, they lost to Northern Arizona University. Let me tell you something about NAU. I lived in Phoenix for 13 years of my life. I went to Flagstaff plenty of times.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. NAU is an extremely small college tucked away up in the White Mountains of Arizona. And they play in a dome. The Lumberjacks play in a dome.
They've had some decent teams in the past.
Yeah, I guess a couple.
Yeah, they have. I've been alive a long time. Got to remember.
How do I put this? Arizona, in my mind, is a less competitive team than the Montana team that beat Washington, the Stony Brook team that scored a touchdown on us last week. Oregon had better come out ready for their best, though. And again, as much problems as Arizona's having, and they're having a lot, and it's really ugly. Their quarterback has 406 yards total for the season. Their running back has 115 yards total for the season. They're really, really bad. It's just really, really ugly. But
so I'm going to go first before you go because it's your team. Let you go last. I got a 48-17 Oregon win.
Yeah, Oregon had better put up 60 on these guys. I really just freaking curb stomp them.
They'll pull off the throttle if it's too high.
I really want to see Anthony Brown get in there.
So give me an update on him.
He's fine. Okay. He got rocked. It was basically a precautionary type deal, and we didn't need him. I was fine with him not playing second half. Just about everybody is back except for Justin Flo, who is kind of week to week. They think he'll be back probably towards the Pac-12 championship. Obviously I'm picking Oregon in this. I want to see them shut a team down early and step on their necks early. That's what I want in this game. It should not be competitive. It shouldn't even be close. But listen, Duck fans, if it's close going into halftime, Tim DeRuyter and Joe Moorhead are fantastic coordinators. They will adjust and they will shut down Arizona. So even if it's like, 21-7 or 21-14, don't lose your minds. Oregon's not losing this game. And honestly, from here on in, Tim, the rest of the schedule, as long as Oregon wins, they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's simple.
It's that
winning
simple.
Winning in is very, very simple.
Winning in. You, my friend, I feel like you're a closet A&M fan, although you'll never admit it to anyone. Bring us into our game of the week here.
I like A&M. They're very well coached. It's not like it used to be. I mean, we don't play them. I mean, it's like before it was one of the biggest rivalries in all the sports.
It's going to change.
And then it went away.
It's going to change.
When it comes back, I'm going to hate them again. But I'll tell you what, the game of the week, and it is the game of the week.
Yes.
Make no mistake about it. And I have changed my mind at least 32 times already.
Fair. Yeah.
Number 7 A&M going into play number 16 Arkansas. And at this point, I still don't know which way I'm going to go, but I've just made up my mind. It's going to be a hard game. It's going to be a hard-fought game. It's going to be a game in the 20s. I have a 28-26 Arkansas victory.
Oh, you're taking Arkansas.
From what I saw against Texas, Arkansas at home, that place is going to be rocking as loud as any stadium you're ever going to be in ever. It's going to be fun to watch.
I'm really surprised you're taking Arkansas. I really am.
I'm on that bandwagon right now.
I mean, fair. You got to see it firsthand. We started getting high on Arkansas last year. We started seeing them making some vast improvements on offense and defense and starting to really bring Pigs back to the forefront of college football. It's really fun to watch. This is such a hard game to pick. I mean, really such a hard game to pick.
Almost impossible.
I honestly, all right, here's what I'm seeing. There's A&M starting quarterback's gone. Okay, I don't know when he's coming back. Just know he got injured against Colorado, which is why that game was as close as it was. I think that's a major factor for a new quarterback to come into the environment like you're talking about in Arkansas. Where's that? Fayetteville? Is that right?
Fayetteville, yeah.
I think Arkansas. I think this is where not that the win against Texas wasn't a good win, because it was, but this is a big game. It's division. It's A&M's a highly ranked team. This is where Arkansas starts to make a name for themselves, and I think they really do it. I like this game, like you kind of said, lower scoring, 24 to I want to say 17, 14, something like that. I think Arkansas is going to do this at home. If this was at A&M, it might go the other way completely.
If it was A&M, I'd go at A&M. I'd go A&M. And this is when the SEC West starts eating each other.
Well, they have to, and it doesn't matter. And all these other people in college football that are worried about where they're ranked, don't worry about it. This all takes care of itself. And that every game, like a lot of coaches say this, Mario said it last week, every game from here on in is a playoff. Every freaking game.
Yeah.
We're in a
for every team.
Team.
There is, Alabama could be a one-win team and get left out. You never know. We never know what's going to happen this year.
And
it's different now. Every game you can lose one game possibly, but after that, every game you play is a playoff.
Every game from here on in. Next week, we have some pretty good games to talk about, ironically enough. Ohio State at Rutgers might be a really good game to watch. You never know. Iowa's at Maryland. That might be a really good game to watch. You have Michigan at Wisconsin. USC at Colorado. Colorado's not been playing bar football. Arkansas might be your game of the week again, Tim. They play at Georgia. next week.
Shoot.
Talk about
know,
a schedule. Good grief, man.
Iowa looks real good.
Iowa looks good.
I got my good eye on Iowa. I'll tell you right now.
Your Hawkeye in Iowa.
Yeah, I do.
Cincinnati plays at Notre Dame. Ole Miss plays at Alabama. You have Oregon and Stanford. You got Oklahoma playing at K-State.
Yeah.
You have Auburn at LSU. And then who do you guys? Are you guys off?
Yeah, I think we're off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, are we off? I don't think we have TCU, don't we?
Let me find Texas. I'm looking through the schedule here. I'm not seeing Texas anywhere. Let's find Texas. I have to find Texas now. I mean, we are called cows and quacks, Tim. I got to know at least who Texas is playing from week to week, or else the game, the whole show kind of loses its relevance here. Let's see. You guys do. You play next week. You play at TCU. It's going to be a tough game too. There's a lot of really good games coming on next week.
Yeah. So Jeff, it's going to be a long one next week.
It is going to be a long one.
You know.
We call that Separation Saturday.
12, 14 games maybe.
Separation Saturday next week. We will be back though with the picks. Enjoy this weekend.
Hey, a couple things.
Yeah.
Couple things before we go. I want everybody to look at a couple things. I want you to watch out for Iowa State and Baylor. I want you to watch out at Michigan at Rutgers. Although Rutgers, I guess there are two cornerbacks. Cornerbacks were shooting paintball. Yeah. So I guess they got arrested. They're not going to play. It's like arrested. Come on, it's a paintball. And then, I look for Tennessee to keep it just through those games out there to look at.
Those will be some great games, man. I'm looking forward to it for sure. I love college football's back in its rhythm here, and I'm excited to get to do this with you every week, brother. I'm losing you, Tim. That must be time for us to sign off then. Adios.
Yeah.